through. And we are now live.
Good morning, everybody. I am Councillor Keddy. I would like to welcome you all to this licensing subcommittee. I would like to open the meeting and receive nominations for chair of today's subcommittee.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Keddy for chair.
And I'll second that.
That's gratefully received. Thank you. Clerk, are there any apologies received for this meeting?
No apologies received from the subcommittee, but Councillor Anne Filer, who was second reserve, has sent her apologies, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask for declarations of interest from each subcommittee member in turn. Councillor Chapman-Law, do you have any conflicts of interest?
No, Chair.
Councillor, do you have any conflicts? Okay. I also have no conflicts of interest in this case. I will now explain the protocol for public speaking at virtual meetings.
You can just say it's to note as attached in the agenda.
Okay. The notice of protocol for public speaking is in the agenda pack. If everybody's happy with that, we can proceed.
Yeah. And then you just want to ask me to do the housekeeping.
Okay. Would you be kind enough to do the housekeeping?
Thank you, Chair. Please note that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast up until the exclusion of the press and public, and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. For those in the room, please note that if the fire alarm sounds, which it will, because we are due a test any time now, so please ignore it. We'll just all mute our microphones so it's not too annoying. But if it goes off again, it will be the real deal, and we'll have to exit the building by the way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make our way down to the assembly point along Brady Road under the flyover. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down completely on laptops. Thank you.
I will now explain how the meeting will be managed. An application has been received to vary the premises licence for the premises known as Southbourne Post Office at 14 Southbourne Grove, Bournemouth. This matter is brought before the Licensing Subcommittee for determination. I will now ask each participant to introduce themselves and state their role. I am Councillor Alistair Keddy and I am the chair of today's subcommittee. Lawrence.
I'm Councillor Lawrence Williams, the member for Littledown and Iford, and member of this committee and the main licensing board.
I am Councillor Chapman-Law, councillor for Alderney and Bourne Valley, and also a member of the licensing subcommittee and the main committee as well.
Councillor Emily Harman is here as reserve member. I'm not sure if you want to introduce yourself. I'm aware that you don't have a saved by the bell.
Hello, I am Councillor Emily Harmon. I'm a Water Councillor for Parkstone. I'm reserved for this subcommittee and also on the main licensing committee.
Mrs. Seelam Alton, I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chidham Alton. I'm the postmistress at 14 Southbourne Grove. We've had the business for about 2 years, and we had the original licence 2 years ago as well. I'm a mother of two. I'm a bit nervous, so I do apologise. I've never attended a meeting like this, but yeah, I've been living in Bournemouth for about 15 years or so, and I done various other businesses, and this is my first experience as a post office. But my husband has got experience in the off licensing sort of business, from years ago as well.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Louise is not currently present. Sarah.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Rogers. I'm Senior Licensing Officer for BCP Council.
Thank you, Sarah. Linda.
Good morning. I'm Linda Cole, solicitor and legal advisor to this subcommittee today.
And Michelle.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Cutler. I'm the clerk to the licensing subcommittee this morning. And to my left, we have Sinead O'Callaghan, who is observing as a new member of Democratic Services. I should also point out that we have two other observers for this morning, which is Nananka and Sally from our licensing team, who won't be participating in the meeting unless asked. They're here for the next application. Thank you.
I will note that Mr. Ibrahim Elton is not present, and Mr. Elif Ildrim, the applicant solicitor, is currently not present. Lucy Hart, the objector, is currently not present. And Louise Busfield from Dorset Police is currently not present.
That's correct. We have tried to make contact with Louise Busfield, from Dorset Police. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get hold of her. So I'll hand back over to you, Chair, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you. We have written representations from the police, and we will proceed on that basis. Unless we hit a point where we need to review, in which case the members present will take a vote. Before we proceed, could I check that all persons who have given notice of their intention to speak have been identified, and any person who wishes to withdraw a representation or wishes not to speak has also been identified? Okay, we shall proceed. The proposed procedure and order of speaking for the hearing is as follows. The licensing officer will present their report. The applicant will make their application. Questions of the applicant by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. Responsible authorities and other persons will make their representations. Questions of the responsible authorities and other persons, members and subcommittee to go first. All parties will be given an opportunity to sum up. The hearing will then conclude. The subcommittee will deliberate in private with the legal advisor and clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning the day or the last day on which the hearing was held in accordance with the regulations. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. I will now ask all parties to confirm agreement on the proposed procedure or make representations. Mrs. Alton, do you accept the procedure?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Louise is not here, sorry. Sarah, do you accept the procedure?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Linda?
Yes, I'm happy with the process, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. May I remind all parties speaking not to repeat the information which they have already given in writing, but to expand on their written representations. All questions are to be asked through the chair, and there will be no cross-examination of parties. I will now ask the licensing officer to present their report.
Many thanks. Mr. Alton has applied to vary the premises licence to extend the terminal hour only for off sales of alcohol. This will be by 1 hour on Monday to Thursday until midnight, and by a further 2 hours on Fridays and Saturdays until 1 AM. No changes sought for Sundays, which will remain at 11 PM. Dorset Police and one other person have made representations on the grounds that to grant the application would undermine the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, and the prevention of public nuisance licensing objectives. Dorset Police did engage in mediation with the applicant, but no agreement was reached. No further contact with the licensing authority has been made by the other person since receipt of her representation. There were no representations from any of the other responsible authorities. Further documents have been distributed prior to this hearing showing the layout of the premises and some photographs showing the location of the beer cave. The applicant solicitor confirmed that there had not been any changes to the layout of the premises other than the addition of this beer cave, which is currently within the licensed area. Should this application be granted and the applicants fail to operate in accordance with any conditions attached to it, they will be aware that any of the responsible authorities or any other person may request a review of the licence at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Does anyone have any questions for the licensing officer? No? Okay, moving on. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Alton, would you like to make your statement, please?
Yes, hi. We basically wanted to extend the hours because we've got major competitors on the high street with us, which includes Tesco's and Sainsbury's. I'm actually not sure on the closing hours of Sainsbury's, but Tesco closes at about 11 o'clock every night, which is very difficult for us to compete. We have a relationship with all of our customers because I am a point of call for the community. If you speak to anyone in the community, they do come to us for guidance, help with everything. And we've got those sort of customers, but we needed to sell alcohol for basically financially helping us with the business. And the only time we can actually do that is if Tesco closes a little bit earlier, or if we're a little bit more open after Tesco's. And when I spoke to the police as well, we did say this is only sort of just to introduce us to other sort of customers, to show them that we're there. So that's why we did it. And in terms of the beer cave as well, when we originally applied for the license, we had no intention of becoming an off license. So the original layout that we had for the application was exactly where the alcohol and everything was. But then we've been in the business for 2 years, and financially it wasn't supporting us. So we decided to become an off license afterwards. And the beer cave was input because we actually thought it was a good thing. We thought if we can constrict the alcohol in one location, it's easier for us to sort of monitor and make sure that all the staff are sort of focusing on that area and to stop crime or anything like that. And I actually spoke to a few people from planning, environmental health and everyone, but we did speak with Sarah Rogers on this as well. There was a miscommunication on our part because I did ask if I needed to do a variation of any sort because we're turning into an off license, and they told me because I already had an E-class license on the premises, I didn't need to tell anyone. That is the only reason why we didn't include the updated plans. We didn't realize that we needed to do anything further. And then when the police came in and they said, have you actually done this? I said, well, I spoke to a few of the other people. No one mentioned anything. But after speaking with Sarah, Sarah told me that I should have been speaking to another person, which is now I understand, completely understand. But in terms of monitoring the beer cave and sort of the crime prevention side of things, I have CCTV in the property. I've got view of every single area. The beer cave is completely controlled by us because we can put a lock on that door, which we do after a certain hours. So after about 9 o'clock, we sort of put a lock on, and anyone that wants to go in, we let them in ourselves. There is an alarm on the door during the day as well. So if anyone enters the beer cave, we can hear it. The shop, the till point is raised. So my husband's quite tall actually, and the people that do come to the shop, that he's usually the one working behind the till. They don't see the view as much as he does. He can actually see everyone from that point, but I suppose he's designed it that way because that's how he felt comfortable. There's a big monitor with a CCTV showing everyone inside the shop as well. We've also got 2 people working all the time on the premises, and I've also got one of the major security companies that have 24/7 surveillance on the premises as well, King Security, which is a part of the post office. So they're there all the time. I have 2 sets of panic alarms on the main shop floor. And a couple more to the back. If anything like that happens, the police responds in less than 2 minutes. Unfortunately, we had an accident where we triggered it by mistake one time, and they do attend in less than 2 minutes because it is a panic alarm. So, you know, we're hopefully that can sort of justify to the police and everyone else that we have tried taking as much measures as we can on there.
Thank you. Just to introduce Louise from Dorset Police, welcome and thank you for joining us. Ms. Dalton, do continue.
Yeah, I mean, that's as much as I could. Like I said, I've never been to one of these meetings, so hopefully it will be like a question and I can sort of respond to it. But that's as much as I can sort of clarify. Like I said, it's only just to be able to compete with the bigger competitors that I've got on the high field. If I can sort of justify the customers getting to know us, I may not be using those extended hours. It is literally just a precaution, just so that we can get word out there that we are selling these products now, and that we can, and the higher sort of content of alcohol is still behind the counter. So your whiskies, your spirits, all of those, they are still behind the counter within our control. So the only things that are in the beer cave is wine and beers. That is the only thing. And like I said, the only intention behind that was because we thought it's better in one area where we can just focus on if someone comes in, and we can control it with the alarms and the doors as well.
Thank you. Is that the end of your statement?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you very much for that. I will now ask for questions from the members. Lawrence, do you have any questions?
Yes, I will actually ask a question. Why 1 o'clock? It just seems that Southbourne isn't the jolliest of places at that time of the evening, even on a Friday and Saturday. Surely a midnight close should suffice. Like, do you honestly expect to have a lot of customers after midnight?
Am I okay to answer?
Please do.
Yeah. Thank you, Lawrence, for that question. I completely agree with you. I did mention to my husband I wouldn't want him working till 1 o'clock either. As you very rightly said, I think midnight is the best, and I've said this to Louise as well. I'm more than happy to bring that down to 12 o'clock. He was just being ambitious, I think, because there's a pub right across the road from us that closes at 12 o'clock. So for anyone that's sort of going home, on their way home, if they can pick up their alcohol and then go that way. But I'm more than happy to go down to 12 o'clock throughout the whole week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, just a question on the CCTV. Obviously, you've got 2 monitors. Are all cameras visible on those 2 monitors all the time, or does it cycle, or what?
All of them are visible. So if we click a button, we can heavily focus on one of them. So there's sort of like a split screen. So we've got about, I don't know the exact numbers, I do apologize. I think there's about 12 or a bit more, and we can focus, make one of them big so that we can focus on that one, and then the others will be smallly viewed next to it. So it's like a split screen, and we'll be able to see the beer cave, for example, in a bigger view, and the others will be there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, thank you.
Louise, do you have questions of the applicant?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Louise, would you be kind enough to state your objections to the application?
Yes, indeed. And I'm sorry if I've put the subcommittee in an unorthodox position due to my technical glitch. However, yes, I've worked with Mr. and Mrs. Alton since they submitted the application, and I will say, they're very, very open to advice in terms of securing their premises and upholding the licensing objectives. But I did have concerns when I visited, simply because of the layout of the premises, that there are so many blind spots for the staff when they're at the counter or in other parts of the store. And especially going into the beer cave, as I say, it's visible only if you're standing directly in front of it, not visible in its entirety from the counter, albeit the CCTV is very comprehensive. That said, the CCTV is only as good as it is operator, because if the operator or the person at the counter is engaged with customers or busy, they're not going to be able to click on to the enlarged view of the CCTV for the beer cave and monitor that, as well as being engaged with the customers. So my objection was in relation to the security of staff under the licensing objective of public safety, and also the prevention of crime and disorder, because I don't believe that the measures are sufficient at this stage to protect the staff, members of staff, when they're working in the store, and prevent shoplifting, which, as we know, it's been described now as an epidemic rather than just being endemic in the area. It is now an epidemic. So the concerns are in relation to managing the physical layout of the premises. As we've established, there are blind spots which are covered by CCTV, but not by line of sight. And during the period of discussion, Mrs. Alton concurred with my concerns in relation to the safety of yourself, your husband, and any staff who might be working there. And it was your initial suggestion that you'd install a night hatch, which could have mitigated all of these concerns, and which we now see being introduced into other late night stores. However, I appreciate the reasons that you've decided to go to seek other methods. We further discussed potentially having security, which appreciate again is an additional cost, but it works, it's obviously a very good deterrent for shoplifters, and security officers are trained in dealing with shoplifters to a higher level than I believe any of your staff would be. Security on the door could act as a deterrent. Again, we do suggest that you would report any shopliftings to the police rather than encourage your staff to tackle them themselves, or to try and detain them once they've left the store. We also discussed potentially reducing the ABV of beers, ciders and lagers, which are generally favoured by street drinkers who go on to cause antisocial behaviour in the area. Again, you said that was one of your biggest sellers, and that's not something you'd be able to consider. So essentially, while Mr. and Mrs. Alton have concurred with our concerns, we haven't been able to mediate any appropriate conditions that would give the police the confidence that the licensing objectives are being upheld, and it's specifically in relation to the prevention of shoplifting and the safety and well-being of your staff and customers.
Many thanks, Louise.
Thank you.
Linda.
Thank you, Louise. Before you finish, could you just focus on the issue that you're concerned about between 11 and midnight? Because we're already licensed to 11. So, I mean, a lot of what you've said would refer to the premises all during the day, and particularly street drinkers. So it's just the concerns really because it is a variation application. It's what the concerns of the police are between 11 and midnight, particularly.
I mean, the concerns are not just limited to 11 and midnight. Until I visited the store, I was unaware that they had a beer cave. And had I been made aware of that initial variation, I would have visited and we would have discussed additional security potentially, simply because of the layout of the store, and the fact that the entrance to the passage between the front door of the premises and the beer cave is largely obstructed by a high level display cabinet between the counter and the customer access. So the concerns are not just between 11 and whatever time they might be able to close. It is throughout the day that these concerns, I think they're realistic concerns that we do have, and we will work with you to assist you with any additional security or crime prevention measures that we can agree.
Louise, are you aware or have any issues been reported since this premises has been active in terms of ASB shoplifting or other breaches of the licensing objectives?
Not so much in terms of not in terms of breach of the licensing objectives. As I say, I believe them to be very responsible operators. It's simply the demographic that is in the area at the moment and the propensity towards shoplifting. Mrs. Alton did refer to an incident whereby her husband did challenge a shoplifter recently, and that was reported to the police. And it just does evidence the fact that it is a problem in society at the moment, and we need to do the best to support the local businesses in upholding the licensing objectives, and, as I say, keep their staff and customers safe.
Thank you.
Am I able to respond? Yep. With regards to the safety and everything, just wanted to mention, in terms of the demographics, because I've lived in the area for 15 years and most of my family have convenience stores. Unfortunately, I know the beer cave is being targeted as the main point for shoplifters. For the last 10 years, I've not seen anyone trying to steal alcohol. It's mainly other products that they do steal, which is why the beer cave being the issue, I know that there's a constriction and everything, but we thought having control of the higher value items covers us, the store, and also those sort of things. But it's not. The last incident that my husband actually challenged, it was a very minor item at the front of the till. Any shoplifters that we've had in the last 2 years, that I think that was the first sort of scenario where we've had to challenge anyone, and we've never had any alcohol stolen from the premises or anything. It's mainly minor sort of things that I've seen in the community as well, because I sort of work with the other shop owners in the community as well. We were talking with Louise as well, because we do want to hit the nail on the head with these shoplifters. We do want to come up with a plan to sort of prevent this, and a lot of the people in the community don't know this, but I do interact with a lot of the shop owners, and they don't steal alcohol, they steal other stuff, they steal ridiculous items, to be honest with you. We don't even understand why, but alcohol is not targeted. If they want to steal alcohol, you know, those sort of things. And as Louise said as well, we are responsible traders. I've been doing this sort of businesses for the last 15 years. We know how to sort of, we may not know most of the measures, but we do enforce it so that we feel safe, because it's my husband that's working there. I don't want him to be unsafe. It's my sister-in-law that's working there. It is my family. I do leave them there. So I've put every single measure. And the beer cave, I know the police are objecting to it, but if the beer was actually displayed, I'd feel a lot less secure, because anyone having to go through a door to steal feels very uncomfortable, whereas if it was in an open space, they can just grab it and run. But that door shuts the minute that they're inside, so they feel confined. So they know that they're being looked on by two sets of eyes. They know that there's other people in the shop. There's always two people there. That my biggest competitor, Tesco, their beers are not in their view either. Their beers are on the side of their tills or on the other side of the shop. So their workers do not have it either. They don't have a view of their alcohol content at all, which is why they get attacked a lot more than we do. Because I think it needs to be reviewed that the beer cave is actually safer for us to operate with, rather than the alcohol being free. And I know it feels like it's right opposite the door, so someone can sort of grab it and run, but they can't. That's why we put that display cabinet there, because it gives them, because if we stand in one part of it, they have to go through the till, or they have to go. The minute someone enters the beer cave, I can show you CCTV images. One of my staff members goes and stands in front of the sort of soft drinks, and that would be one of the exits. The other exit is the till point, so they've always got someone. And at night time, no, there's no two people in the till. There's always one on the shop floor. So I feel I know the objections of the police, but as an operator, I have to feel safe as well in doing it. And I think the beer cave is the safest option for us. It's the easiest way for me to control my products and control my staff. And my staff, anyone that I brought in there, have said this is the best way, because then I can just focus on that area rather than having it all on a sort of display unit. This works out so much better. And anyone that has actually visited my branch, any of the other shop owners, they've all said the same thing. You've got control. It's one area that you need to look out for. And in terms of the customers as well, I know that you said that it promotes street drinking and things like that after 11 o'clock. I don't have those sort of clientele in my shop, because I'm a post office. I have families that come to visit us. I have our bar is a little bit higher. They do not come to us. We're not a box standard off license. I do have that post office in there, which increases the sort of potential of my shop to be a little bit better. And I've brought unique products in there. It's not just the alcohol. Alcohol is where we make the money, unfortunately, which is why I couldn't agree to the other beer content, the other beers taken off the display. If I could, I would. I completely agree. I wouldn't want to be, I would want to do it, but I just cannot financially support it. It is one of the biggest sellers. But I'm just hoping that the police can actually understand that we had to put on a display where we felt the safest, where I thought my family is the safest in working, sort of doing things. If it was out on display, I wouldn't feel safe. My husband has the control of the spirits behind him, and he's got one area of the beer cave, which if anyone enters, it's there. If anyone needs to go to the loo, we lock it. We make sure no one goes in until that second person is out there. We have brought those measures in, and that's the best that we can do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have a response, Louise?
No, I concur with Mrs. Alton, and it is a difficult premises, because it's very long and a lot of the stock isn't visible, except if that member of staff does click onto the appropriate CCTV camera. But no, I do concur with what Mrs. Alton is saying, largely, that they are responsible operators. They do their utmost to monitor every area of the store, but given the layout of the store, I don't believe that it is possible to uphold the licensing objective of the prevention of crime and disorder and deter shoplifters I believe that your staff and your premises is vulnerable. As I've discussed, it is down to the safety and security of your staff in that store if you are open late night. And also appreciate during the day these incidents can happen as well. And if I had seen the application for the variation to include the beer cave with the sliding doors, I would have leapt at the opportunity to come and have a chat with you at that stage to discuss your security and crime prevention measures. As I say, we're doing it a bit late in the day, and the members will have had sight of our crime prevention officer's comprehensive report when he visited the store last Friday. So yes, I do concur with a lot of what Mrs. Alton is saying, but at the same time, the concerns do still remain.
Thank you, Linda. Councillor Williams has a question.
Just a thought, but would an additional camera perhaps alleviate your worries somewhat for the blind spot? Louise, I'm sorry, it's a question for you.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I mean, the CCTV system is comprehensive. I don't believe that there are any blind spots on the CCTV. We had discussed, or you had proposed, Mrs. Alton, putting mirrors up so that your staff could have sight of those areas also that are harder to see. But as I say, my concern is that if your staff are engaged with customers, they're not going to be able to have eyes on every area of your store, regardless of whether the CCTV is comprehensive and whether the mirrors are there.
Am I able to respond at all?
Please do.
So in terms of Lawrence's thing as well, every part of that shop covered with CCTV. I have to, by the contract that I've got with the post office, because obviously I have to make sure that I uphold that as well. Mirrors, I'm more than happy to put up with, but in terms of the view of the police, the crime prevention officer came and he actually said to my staff members, "You've got this really wrapped up. I don't think that you could have done anything further." Like I said, we've got the raised shop floor, and we've got complete control of that beer cave. I know I mean, we're talking about if things happen, say during the daytime as well. If we're engaging with customers, they just literally pick up cards, take it and write it, and they don't realize that we've seen it. But then a second later, we sort of realize, hold on, you've done it. It can happen during the day. We're sort of talking about not having, we're trying to prevent stuff that is going to happen regardless of whatever measures you put in. If someone is coming into that shop to steal, they will find a way to steal. They will wait with us. But we know now the kind of people that do come to us for steal. They're on those, they're on their bikes, they're on their you know, they've got backpacks. We know the kind of people that we have to deal with. Unfortunately, I live next to a shop that has a major high volume of shoplifters, and I believe the measures that are proposed by the police will not stop shoplifters. If the alcohol's on view, it's much more, because they tried us. They did try us. Do not get me wrong. They tried coming into my business, and 3 or 4 of them, they walked in. They realized there was a few of us following them. They realized they had to go through that door, make a noise to go in. They didn't do it. It's not just with the alcohol that I try to prevent everything. I put in doors that you have to physically open for the soft drinks rather than the open ones. It costs me a hell of a lot more money, but if someone has to open a door to make a noise, they know that we realize that they're trying to take a product, so we've got eyes on them. And you know, the CCTV is preventing that. I did, because obviously we don't want our products to be stolen. We don't want these people in our premises, so we tried absolutely everything we can. The doors work so much better than open displays. I mean, I don't know if that can be sort of included, Louise, with the police as well. They are there for prevention. They're not there because, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to pay an extra electric bill for having that beer cave there, but it was literally for us to have control and stop people from stealing. I can't stop. If someone has got their mind that they're going to steal that product, they're going to wait till I'm busy, they're going to wait till I'm not in their view, and they're going to do it. But I've tried everything that I can, and I believe the layout is the best that it can be. If I had open displays, people can just literally put it in their bags and go. But I know if they're in there, I know that they're doing it. So, you know, I'm hoping that answers your questions.
Thank you. Could you just confirm that at the moment you always have 2 members of staff, 1 on the till, 1 on the shop floor?
Yes, during the daytime and during the evenings.
Thank you. Louise, did you have a response?
No, well, only to reiterate what I have said. I mean, very often you might have a queue, that's member of staff might be engaged serving a customer, or indeed be distracted. And I know that Mrs. Alton has said, oh no, if somebody goes into the beer cave, we flick onto that screen and we monitor it. My concern is that that is not as effective as somebody physically being able to serve a customer whilst also having line of sight into the beer cave.
Thank you. In discussions with our legal counsel, this subcommittee is only considering a 1-hour variation now of the current licence, since the applicant has agreed that they don't need to go beyond midnight on Friday and Saturday. Some of the police concerns strike me as concerning the general licence rather than just the 1-hour application. If there are concerns beyond this 1-hour extension, you may need to consider calling in a variation. Calling in a review that would be heard separately. Louise.
Yes, sorry, no, yes, that's understood. Thank you. As I say, the first opportunity I had, the first time I was made aware of this variation to the layout was when I received the application, and they didn't tie up. Hence I visited. And as I said, had we been aware of this variation to the layout prior to the application, then we probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Am I able to respond?
Yes.
So, like I said, when I originally decided that I wanted the shop to become an actual off license, I called everyone in the council. I absolutely phoned the planning, the licensing, everyone involved. I have an email from the licensing team. I don't know if it's licensing or planning. I do have to check that email. And they said to me, you've got an E-class license. You do not need a variation. But again, Sarah Rogers has made me aware that they use the same terminology. But as a member of the public, I can't know this. They should have said to me, please speak to licensing or someone else for this variation, because it doesn't feel right to me that now I'm being penalised for this, because I tried. My landlord tried, my landlord actually called into the council and said, can you please make sure that we're okay with what is happening with the changes in the shop? And we had someone from environmental health come in. No one at any stage told me that I needed to do this. And I have the license, as you've quite rightly said. I've got the license till 11 o'clock. It's only 1 hour extra, but I understand that you may want to look at the whole licensing, but we've been trading for the last 2 years. We've had no issue. We've had the shop for the last 6 months. Sorry, we've had no issue. So you know, Tesco has an issue every single day, maybe 4 or 5. Their license is not under review. All the other shop owners are the same, but I'm the only one being targeted. So I would please, you know, like you to consider that I've tried to, but it might have been a sort of language thing that we had a problem with. But, you know, I would like it to be a minor variation rather than a major one, because it's only one fridge. It is a walk-in fridge, but it is one fridge. We didn't extend to outside the property. We didn't do anything else. It is a fridge. At the end of it, it is just a fridge.
Thank you, Mrs. Alton. I would like to bring Sarah in.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to clarify, there is no, when it was reported about the beer cave, it was my initial concern, and I asked the applicant solicitor to provide me with a plan, which I've distributed. There was no change to the layout of the premises. It was just an addition of this fridge within a current licensed area. So there's no requirement for these premises to have applied for any minor variation or full variation upon looking at what was provided. The applicant solicitors also confirmed that there haven't been any other changes. So the plan is just basically now including a fridge within a current licensed area, which we wouldn't have, we would have dealt with at the very least by a plan substitution. So to avoid confusion, there was no indirect variation that hadn't been authorised. Everything was done within the current licensed area, and we wouldn't be seeking a variation of that plan.
Thank you for that
Sarah.
clarification. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for Louise? No. Okay, we've heard the representations. Would any of the parties present like to give a brief summary? Louise, would you like to give a brief summary?
Thank you. Again, for fear of repeating myself, it's simply that we want to support and engage all our licensed premises in upholding the licensing objectives. And concerns do remain with regard to this premises and the safety of their customers and staff, given the epidemic of shoplifting and incidences of people, street drinkers and antisocial behaviour ensuing from street drinking. And it's more a question of adopting measures whereby we can be confident that the premises is promoting the licensing objectives to the utmost. And during the period of mediation, we've had several proposals which we've batted backwards and forwards, none of which we actually managed to agree. So we came to the subcommittee because we had no formal agreement for any additional measures in order to mitigate the concern about the store opening later into the evening. So in summary, yes, the concerns do still remain, but we are still here to support and engage with the premises, whatever the decision of the subcommittee.
Louise, I'm not quite sure when you joined and if you were here when the applicant reduced the variation application to midnight on all nights.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, so just to confirm that that had already been offered before you joined. So it is midnight now on Monday through to Saturday.
Thank you.
Sarah, do you have any summary to add?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Alton, do you have a brief summing up?
Very brief one, and like I said, it's only just the 1 hour that we're asking for the additional. It's only just so that we can compete with the biggest competitor that I've got next to me, which is Tesco's. I believe I've got the best measures in my shop. It is my own business, so I do look after the welfare of my staff, which is my family. I wouldn't put them at danger of anything. That is where the line sort of crosses. it is my heart that I've left in that shop. So I understand the concerns from the police, but I think it's a general concern that is being raised in terms of my property. It is a very long shop, but you know, we that's why we compress the shop part into just the small area that they can see. We brought in fridges with doors just to make us aware that there is someone there trying to get to it. We've got great CCTV. We've trained all of our staff members. We are very responsible traders. We will, you know, we've been approached by so many people with no ID, trying to show us ID on their phones. We absolutely do not serve anyone. And I am a postmistress for the area. I am a very responsible person. And like I said, if you go to any members of the community up there, they will tell you that we are very aware of what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And we always try to prevent crime. I am, you know, and we've even had this conversation with Louise, which we will hopefully go back to, and trying to come up with better measures to get rid of these street drinkers. We have a very, very big community who own these shops all around Bournemouth, Poole, Christchurch, everywhere. And I do want to become an advocate for that as well. So I'm kind of hoping that that sort of sets the council and everyone else's mind at ease that we will try to prevent crime, whatever happens. We will never be the ones to encourage it.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank everybody who has attended this hearing this morning. This meeting, the public section of this meeting is now concluded. The subcommittee will deliberate in private with the legal advisor and the clerk present. The decision will be published within 5 days of this hearing.
Yes, just to confirm, Chair, that notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day in which the hearing was held in accordance with regulations. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. We will now conclude.
Thank you.
Thank you. So all parties that are not required for the next item can now leave, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If all right with you guys, I'm going to hang around in the background, but I'm not part of the next thing. Can't hear anyone.
We are still live. So, Chair, move on to item number 6 of the agenda now, which is the exclusion of public and press.
Would it? I've had a request for a 5-minute break.
That's absolutely fine. All I would suggest is if you read out the exclusion
Sure.
of public and press, I can then end the live stream and we can take a comfort break before we move on to item number 7, if everyone's happy with that.
Certainly. Okay, item number 6, exclusion of public and press. In relation to the item of business appearing below, the subcommittee is asked to consider the following resolution. That under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1 and 2 in part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, and that the public interest in withholding the information outweighs such interest in disclosing the information. The live stream will now end.